Presenting everyone, the truly wondrous item that can only be known as the Slinky. Oh yeah, look at that. It's insane. Look at this. It's crazy. It's getting out of control. Guys, there's too much Slinky. Too much Slinky. Gotta... Okay, we're good. That could have spelled the end of the world there, right? Hey, Barry, you got a Slinky on your head. That looks hilarious. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry back again. And today's video, we are finally tackling Bellamy. That's right. Last year, I did the series on the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, Cavendish, Bartolomeo, IDO, Orlumbus, all those characters. And throughout the entire series, I got a lot of requests, like, Tekking, are you also going to do a supplemental video about Bellamy? Bellamy, the man that is sort of a member of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, but not really. He's like a de facto member. He's like, if we're being honest here, he's kind of like a tsundere in terms of this, where he's like, Baka, Straw Hat, Luffy, I don't want to be a member of your Grand Fleet. I don't care about that, although I will take a piece of your Vivre card, so if you're ever in trouble, I guess I could come and rescue you and come to your aid and everything along with the rest of the Grand Fleet, but it's not like I'm actually your friend or anything. Now, if you excuse me, Baka, I'm gonna go to a dyed goods island, and I'm gonna learn all about how to make Jolly Rogers on, fabric, and I'm gonna learn, drawing skills and everything, and I'm gonna make the best damn Jolly Roger the Straw Hat Grand Fleet ever did have, but it's not like I want to be a member of your crew or anything. Okay, bye! And then that's pretty much where Bellamy's at right now. That's where Bellamy's at, and, this is a character that I never thought would even come back into the story. When they reintroduced Bellamy at Dressrosa, I'm sitting there like, oh, him? Really? Okay. Huh, and I remember when Bellamy first showed up at Dressrosa, I was surprised, but I was also just kind of like, this guy, great, we gotta deal with this guy again, alright. I mean, like, and it was funny, because when he popped up, I was like, I want to see Luffy punch him in the face again, and that does actually end up happening, but it's under completely different circumstances than the first time this happened, okay? And that's what Oda does, man, Oda does. You gotta think, Oda's sitting down, he's like, okay, who are gonna be these new characters I'm going to introduce at Dressrosa, and who are gonna be some characters I'm maybe gonna bring back, right? And you'd figure, it's like, okay, this is an arc all about Doflamingo, right? And one of the big introductions to Doflamingo's power and influence was Bellamy back at Jaya, when Bellamy was like a member, not a member of Doflamingo's core crew, but he was allowed to use the smile and travel around and be like, an instrument of Doflamingo's, like, evil machinations and everything like that. And we see Doflamingo at the end of Skypiea arc at Jaya, like, torturing Bellamy and Sarkis, making them fight to the death and everything, right? And we just assume that they both died there. But Oda's like, no, how about this? This is gonna be an arc, Dressrosa, the longest arc in One Piece. I mean, Wano's right about to, eclipse that. But for right now, Dressrosa is still the longest. I'm gonna have this whole thing focused on Doflamingo. I'm gonna reintroduce Bellamy into this story, because Bellamy was a man that followed Doflamingo. He was like his idol growing up. Bellamy's obviously a lot younger than Doflamingo, so he viewed him as like, oh man, this guy's awesome, right? I can't wait to be just like him. I can't wait to work for him and stuff. And so you think he's dead, but I never actually showed him dead. So I'm going to introduce Bellamy back into the story, and we're going to have some things here of how this whole thing works out, how this whole dynamic, and honestly, we got a decent amount of redemption from Bellamy's character. He's definitely changed since the last time we saw him, right? So, yeah, I know it took a while for me to do this video, and mostly that's just because of the Slinky thing, because I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this video, I need to have a Slinky, right? I have to have multiple Slinkies, because Bellamy has the spring fruit, allows him to turn his body into springs. Spring Hopper is his, like, most notable, like, his, signature move and everything. And, yesterday I was in the store, and they had this whole section of just, like, stocking stuffers, and they had a whole bin filled with Slinkies, and also in, like, their kind of original packaging, too, from, like, the 60s or 70s. The Slinky was founded in 1945 by Richard James. And, him and his wife, Betty, would actually run the company. And actually, the company is based in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, which is not far from where I live. So I was thinking maybe I could do part of this video where I go on a tour of the Slinky factory, and I'm like, that's what the Bellamy video needs to be. And I obviously can't do that now because of the state of the world. But then I also started thinking, man, that would be like a tangent to be all tangents, right? Like, I would be doing the Bellamy video, and then it just cuts to me taking a tour of the Slinky factory in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, and just be like, okay, there's 5 minutes of me going on a tour of the Slinky factory. Maybe not so much, but I needed to have Slinkies for this, right? Okay, so let's get right into this. All right, first impressions of Bellamy. Go. they were probably not very positive. There were not a lot of likable traits about Bellamy when he was first introduced at Jaya. Bellamy just kind of gave me the impression of just like this, you know, he's sort of becoming well known as a pirate. He has a bounty of 55 million, which at that point in the story, 55 million, nothing to really sneeze at. I mean, that's higher than Luffy's first bounty and everything, but we were just coming off of Alabasta. You know, Luffy just beat the shit out of Crocodile, and then we get this guy. You know, this arrogant, just dude sitting in a bar with his crew, you know, just bragging about how awesome he is and everything. And then, you know, every time, you know, they brought up the Sky Islands and everyone just laughed, and Bellamy was just like, Sky Island doesn't exist. You're a freaking idiot. The era of dreams are stupid. It's all about pirates just doing what pirates do, you damn kid. Right? And so not a very likable character, right? And then the whole bar fight scene breaks out. Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro, they just kind of take it and then walk out because it's not even worth it. They definitely play the high ground there. You know, they go the Obi-Wan gambit, definitely. It's like, they have the high ground. And they really did, because Luffy learned this whole thing from Shanks when he was a kid, and it's just like, look, dude, if you're gonna get into a fight every single time somebody, you know, just, you know, shit talks you or whatever, like, you know, that's just not gonna go anywhere, right? That's like the Eustace Kid approach. Like, if you want a pirate that does do that, look no further than Eustace Captain Kidd, because that's what he does. I've said this time and time before, but if we're in like a parallel One Piece dimension, and Eustace Kid was the one that arrived at Mocktown, and he walked in with Killer and his crew, like Heat and everybody, and they were like, hey, we hear that there's a way to get to Sky Island from, you know, around here. Anything about that? And then Bellamy was in the freaking tavern, and Bellamy starts laughing at Kid, like, ha ha! Sky Island, you're an idiot! Look at you, everybody! Look at this ginger that just walked in. He's a freaking idiot! Oh, and right then and there, that is where Bellamy's sentence would end, as well as his life, as well as probably that entire tavern, because Kid and Killer and his entire crew would have ravaged. There would have been no one getting out of that shit alive, right? So if you want to look at it from another scenario, and you know, Luffy and Zoro and Sanji, they were definitely strong enough, like working together, they could have done that too. But that's not how they roll, okay? That's not how they roll. And then Luffy's like, it's nothing, it's just a bunch of idiots at a bar bragging and going crazy, you know, it's whatever. I can take some people throwing insults at me. I can take someone throwing some booze on me, like whatever. You know, but then later in the arc, when, you know, Bellamy steals Cricket's gold, that's when it's personal. That's when Luffy's like, okay, I'm gonna take care of this now, alright? And so he runs back to the town, and it's kind of an intense scene in the story where it's like, oh, is Luffy gonna get the gold back and defeat Bellamy and get all the way back to Cricket's house and get on the ship and make it to the knock-up stream? Like, is this gonna work out? And, it's great, because Bellamy's there, and he's the hyena. You know, his thing is he laughs. And by the way, I did some research on this just because I was curious, because I don't really know much about hyenas. The most I know about hyenas is just from watching The Lion King. So I'm like, do hyenas even laugh? I don't even know. But I looked it up, and they do. Go on YouTube, hyenas laughing. It actually does get, it's actually like, yeah, they are laughing. It's pretty funny. But at any rate, he's the hyena, so he's laughing at everybody. He always has his tongue sticking out. Even his personal Jolly Roger kind of has that. Also kind of reminiscent of the Rolling Stones a little bit, but whatever. Anyway, so Bellamy's there, and he's like, hey, stupid Straw Hat Kid. You came here for another ass beating? I got all the gold. Take it back if you want. Spring Hopper! And he starts bouncing around the whole town, and everyone's like, oh, this is insane! You know, he's like, bing, 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 you know, bouncing around and stuff, and Luffy's just there, and Luffy has not accessed observation at this point, at least not that we know of, but of course Luffy has the potential to unlock it at some point, so I feel like maybe this is like the beginnings of it, maybe a little bit of the beginnings of observation, because Luffy, I don't even think Luffy takes a single step in this fight. I think he just kind of like, you know, he's facing down Bellamy, Bellamy does the Spring Hopper, and then Luffy just kind of like, yep, and he's like, bouncing all around, and just like, okay, yeah, you do what you gotta do. Okay, so 3, 2, Straw Hat, you're dead! BAM! And just punches him square into the, 2 hits. Luffy hitting Bellamy, Bellamy hitting the floor. That's it. Just BAM! one shot. And that was beautiful because that was Oda showing us, like, yes, this guy was all bluster. He was super arrogant, you know, and Luffy is, like, you know, he is the stronger pirate. He is the better pirate, and the better man. And he's the one that just finished the fight in a single blow, grabbed the gold, got back to Cricket's place, and managed to get on the ship to the knock-up stream, right? And I thought, right then and there, that's all we're ever going to see of Bellamy. It was just a short little arc, so Oda could, like, you know, teach us a little bit about Luffy's personality and, like, character development and what he learned from Shanks and, not getting into a fight with just everyone that insults you. Like, that's what the whole purpose of Bellamy's character was going to be. At the end of Skypiea, we actually go back to Jaya. Didn't expect that, and this is where we see Doflamingo. Not in his first appearance. His first appearance was after Crocodile was defeated. We see him at Marijois, but we see him again, the mysterious Flamingo Man hanging out in the town. And of course, at this point, Bellamy was working under Doflamingo, having the Smile, Jolly Roger, and everything, well, with Sarkis and everyone else on Bellamy's crew. And so they had failed. They had shamed Doflamingo's sigil, and so Doflamingo personally showed up to teach them a lesson, like, yeah, you can't be going around the Grand Line with my freaking Jolly Roger with the smile symbol and getting your ass kicked in one shot. Like, that kind of stuff doesn't fly, And so Dofi uses his Parasito thread to control Sarkis and Bellamy and have them basically fight to the death in the middle of the street while everyone's just kind of looking on, and, Doflamingo is just like, and so that scene ends with just them charging at one another, and then we just kind of see, I think, a blood splash, and that's it. And we don't see Bellamy again for hundreds and hundreds of chapters. So I, just like a lot of people, just assumed, like, oh, okay, the douchebag that made fun of Luffy and his dreams and everybody at that bar in Jaya died. Alright, so moving on with the rest of the story, right? We got a lot of other stuff to do. We got Long Ring Longland, we got Water 7, we got Enies Lobby, we got Thriller Bark, we got freaking Fishman Island, Sabaody, Marineford. That was a weird way to pronounce that. Marineford, Impel Down, Amazon Lily, Time Skip. We got a lot of other stuff going on. If there was anyone out there that was genuinely, like, in the middle of Marineford was like, man, I wonder if Bellamy's ever gonna show back up in this story. If anyone out there that was actually doing it, well, kudos, you ended up being right. It's just like, yeah, I kind of just forgot about him, right? And just like, yeah, he's dead, whatever. And Dofi killed him. So then we get to Dressrosa, and we get to see Bellamy again at Cordia Coliseum, and we see him as a very changed man. For one thing, he's supremely jacked. Like, he really hit the gym in those last 2 years, right? He's jacked, he's got the shades, he's got a new kind of, I think, a bunch of new scars on his body. Got a pretty damn cool jacket, I have to admit. The cross emblem on the back, that is a pretty damn cool jacket, alright, I'll give it to you. So he's there, and you'd think, like, after getting one-shotted by Luffy, and then, because of that defeat by Luffy, you had Doflamingo show up and forcing him to fight, like, his, like, first mate to the death. Sarkis, I'm pretty sure, is dead. Like, I don't know if that's been confirmed yet, and I know Oda doesn't really like to kill a lot of people in this story, but I feel like Sarkis is definitely dead, right? Okay, the dude with the Kukiri knives or whatever, yeah, he's probably dead. But anyway, you'd think that Bellamy would be pissed at Luffy. Like, you're the one that ruined my life, Straw Hat. But no, he's just kind of like, dude, my perspective on life has kind of changed in the last 2 years. He's like, turns out Sky Island was real. I went there. And Luffy actually got a little annoyed. He's like, you didn't do anything to them up there, did you? Like, all my friends. And Bellamy's like, no. It's just like, I just discovered that I was kind of living in sort of a box for most of my life. And I was, like, ridiculing people for their dreams. Like, anytime someone said anything out of the ordinary, like, island in the sky, that's ridiculous. Or, there's no great treasure. There's no islands on the ocean floor. Next thing you'll tell me, there's alien robots living on the moon. You're insane. He's like, he had a very close-minded personality. And he's just like, I've kind of opened myself up to the world, and I've began to see the world, like, what it really is. And I could see that, like, if Skypiea existed, maybe other places could exist too. Like, dreams are not as ridiculous as I originally assumed for. So he's different in that way, but he's not different in the sense that he still idolizes Doflamingo. He still views him and puts him up on a pedestal. Not the kind of guy you want to honor. And he still wanted to work for him. So what happened was, and this, we get like little bits and pieces of this in between, like the arc, and the time skip of like what happened to Bellamy since his defeat. Doflamingo forces Bellamy and Sarkis to fight at Jaya. Bellamy kills Sarkis. Doflamingo lets him go. They're both, I mean, like, Sarkis is dead, and Bellamy's seriously injured, but he lets them both go. And he's like, all right, you're off my crew. I don't want you on my crew anymore. Leave. Because we also find out, it's a very, very brief scene in the manga, but we get a moment where Bellamy actually met Doflamingo for the first time, and how he joined his, the bigger, Smile crew, right? And how that happened was, in the North Blue, years ago, back when Doflamingo was still at Spider Miles, back when he was still running, his crime family up there in the North, Bellamy was also from the North. He was from the Notice Kingdom. Right? And by the way, that's just Oda being punny again with the jokes. It's like, oh, I get it. Bellamy wants to be noticed by Doflamingo, so he comes from the Notice Kingdom. Do you get it? Okay. So anyway, he shows up at a bar where Doflamingo's at, and Treble's there and everything. Is they're having, Bellamy shows up there. He's a lot younger. He's a teenager. He's got his crew with him or whatever. And they're like, yeah, you're that guy. You're Don Quixote Doflamingo. I want to join up with you, right? I want to carry your Jolly Roger, right? And they're like, well, where are you from? Treble's like, where are you from? And he's like, I'm from the Notice Kingdom. Now, surprisingly, from what we find out about the Notice Kingdom, it's not much, but from what we understand, the Notice Kingdom is actually a pretty, okay place to grow up. It's a wealthy town or a noble town. And from what we understand, Bellamy did not leave the Notice Kingdom because he was living in poverty or he was abandoned by his parents. There's so many other characters in One Piece that have that backstory, right? Even with the Doflamingo family, Buffalo and Baby Five both have that kind of backstory where Buffalo and Baby Five grew up in respective towns where, in Buffalo's case, the dictatorship that ruled Buffalo's hometown was families, if you are having trouble feeding your whole family, just abandon your kids in the sewer. And that's what happened with Buffalo. Buffalo was abandoned by his parents in the sewer, and then Dofi found him and then brought him on. And then with Baby Five, she was abandoned by her own mother out in the forest, right? And so that's how she developed that whole kind of psychological complex where she always has to be useful to people, right? And so that's the backstories for Buffalo, Baby Five, and there's so many other characters. Even with the Straw Hats, Frankie's parents were both pirates that just brought this baby into the Grand Line, and then it's we can't take care of a baby, and they just abandoned Frankie in Water 7, and Tom found him and just Kokoro, I guess we're raising a kid now with a Dawn. Why did they name that? Yeah, you think Tom would have named Frankie Dawn? I have a perfect name for him. His name will be Dawn. It's no, that's stupid. That's a stupid name. We're gonna call him Cuddy Flam. Alright, yeah, that's a better name. That's a better name. Anyway, so, yeah, there's a lot of really crappy backstories for kids. But at least from what we understand with not Doflamingo. Yeah, Doflamingo had a perfectly happy childhood. Yeah, no. But Bellamy's, at least we understand, he grew up in a nice town. And, he didn't live in poverty or anything. The way that he explained it was just too boring for him. So now we have, the complete opposite end of this, where you had, Luffy, Sabo, and Ace spending much of their life in a literal garbage heap at Grey Terminal. And then it's just all right, well, we live in this kind of crappy situation. But then we have Bellamy. He's yeah, I grew up in a nice town, had okay parents, and had 3 square meals to eat every day, and I was doing pretty good for myself. But man, it was just too damn boring there in the North Blue. Tell you what, we're gonna go and we're gonna find my idol, and we're gonna set sail to the sea. Oh, you mean maybe they thought about the Germa for a moment, because the Germa's also in the North? It's no, not the Germa 66. They don't even exist, you idiot. I'm talking about a Flamingo Man. The evil Flamingo Man. That's the person I want to follow. So they encounter Doflamingo. Man, that actually makes me think for a second. Do you ever think that the Germa and Doflamingo's crew ever had interaction? Because they both came from the North, and so Dofi had this big crime boss family, and then you also had the Germa and Judge doing their thing in the North. I'm wondering if they ever, had an interaction. That's actually kind of interesting how that would have went down. But no, it's he showed up, he found Doflamingo, he's I want to join your crew. And Doflamingo is just sitting at the bar. He doesn't even really turn to acknowledge them. He's just drinking some scotch or whatever, and he's just I don't care if you use my emblem, but you can never bring shame to it. So wield my emblem, go out to sea, spread my name, spread the terror, but if you fail, I'm gonna kick your ass. And Bellamy, of course, is a young kid, so he's just yeah, awesome, sure, let's do that, right? So that's his backstory, right? And so after Jaya, after he was forced to kill Sarkis, Doflamingo abandoned them, and they're like, I don't want to see you around anymore. Just, you're off. I won't kill you, I guess, but you're no longer allowed to use my Jolly Roger. You're no longer to ally yourself with me. And then Dofi left. And then Bellamy was just distraught by this, and he's like, I need to figure out a way to get back into Doflamingo's good graces, right? So him and his surviving crew end up going to Skypiea, and they end up finding the golden pillar. Remember that giant golden pillar that all of the Skypieans were going to give to the Straw Hats as like a reward for helping them, for saving them from Eneru and everybody? And they thought it was like a giant cannon because they wrapped it up. It's like, that's a giant ancient sky cannon! We gotta get out of here! And they left, which, it sucks for them, but at the same time, it's like, how the hell were the Straw Hats going to take that giant pillar of gold anyway? Like, it's too big. It was like several times the size of the Sunny. I mean, of the Mary and the Sunny. They wouldn't be able to carry that thing around with them, so they grabbed a bunch of gold and they got out of there. They came out with something of a reward, but they wouldn't be able to carry that pillar anyway. But anyway, something happened in the sky. Maybe Bellamy lied to all the Skypieans, and Bellamy was like, ah, yes, the Straw Hat Pirates. They're actually, you know, our close friends. Yes, me and Luffy met each other at a bar, and we had a great time. And the Skypieans were just like, wow, really? That's convenient, because they ran off without even taking their, you know, their reward. Make sure they get it. Maybe Bellamy said something like that. So Bellamy takes the giant golden pillar down to the Blue Sea and goes back to Doflamingo and presents it to him like, hey, Doflamingo, I know I screwed up, but here is a literal giant pillar made of gold. And it's like, Doflamingo at that point was probably just like, all right, it's a giant pillar of gold. Sure. And so Bellamy, I believe, defected from his own pirate crew. He left. So his pirate crew that probably helped him get to the sky and get the golden pillar and get back down. And I think maybe Doflamingo might have given him, like, the ultimatum, like, tell you what, Bellamy, you want to join my crew again? You can come back, but you can't bring your crew with you. And maybe Doflamingo just messing with him some more. And so Bellamy just, okay! And then he did that. And so he joined back up with, you know, the Don Quixote family, joined back up with the pirates, and left his former crew to do whatever. I'm not sure what they would have done. And then he's in this situation where he's at Cordadia Coliseum, and he meets Luffy and everything, and they have that interaction. He's definitely a kind of changed person. He's not the same kind of man he was at Jaya, but he still feels really bad about following Doflamingo. I'm sure he has a lot of regrets about leaving his crew behind and everything. I'm just like, you know, I shouldn't be following this man. I should have just, you know, I should have stayed with my original crew maybe. But he just kind of like, well, I'm already on the course, so, you know, might as well keep up with it, right? And so we have the moment in the Coliseum where he's beat. I don't remember what block he's in, what block Bellamy was in the Coliseum. I feel like he was in block B, along with, like, Bartolomeo and stuff. I think he was in that block, and he got defeated that way, I think, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100%. But at any rate, the next big moment we get with Bellamy is at the end of the arc, when Bellamy is there being controlled by Doflamingo, and Doflamingo also has his Black Knight, like his doppelganger, his string clone of himself. And so the string clone of Dofi and Parasito-controlled Bellamy are attacking Luffy under the castle, while Law's fighting against Doflamingo himself. This is where Law gets his freaking arm ripped off and everything. And so finally, Luffy's actually really concerned for Bellamy. He's like, because he's all beaten up and he's bleeding, and he's like, Dofi, let him go, he's gonna die! And so Luffy finally beats the crap out of the clone, and the clone gets destroyed, and Dofi just kind of looks down at Bellamy, and he's just like, yeah, alright, why not? And he just, like, releases Bellamy, and Bellamy's all, like, banged up from being manipulated. Like, can you imagine, like, all the strings in your body, like, manipulating you and contorting you to, like, attack, and you're all hurt. So the second he removes the strings, like, yeah, okay, I guess so. And he removes the strings, and Bellamy just, like, boom, he just collapses. And he's like, and Luffy's like, Bellamy, you're hurt, you're bleeding, you're gonna die, man. And Bellamy's like, don't look down on me, Straw Hat. And he activates Spring Hopper, and he goes to attack him. He's just like, I know I did it, I know I followed him, I shouldn't have done it, but I'm here and I'm doing it, so, you know, even fools have a code of conduct. And Luffy's like, okay, I guess. You really don't need to do this, dude. If you move around a lot more, you are gonna die. He's like, this is my ultimate technique, Hockey Spring Hopper. And he's bouncing around with the springs, but he has hockey added to it. And he goes to punch Luffy. And this time he actually does succeed. He actually does, boom, punch Luffy, like, right in his stomach with his hockeyed up fist. And you have to imagine, that's not a bad technique. That's actually a pretty solid technique. Using the Spring Hopper to increase your momentum, hockeying that up, and then using your fist and just boom, you know, just pile driving yourself into the opponent with your just hockey fist. that would do a pretty good sizable amount of damage. So you gotta give Bellamy that much. That's not a bad technique. But of course, it's Luffy, and he's pretty strong himself, so he was able to resist it. And then Luffy does the same thing as last time. He just, boom! And it, like, even the panel itself is, like, mirrored, with Luffy punching Bellamy down and knocking his ass out. And that's where we get that. After the fight is over, we have the meeting with the Grand Fleet and everything like that, and Bellamy decides, you know, I think I've finally seen what I need to do with my life, and I think I'm just going to stop being a pirate. You know, I think that's what Bellamy kind of arrived at the conclusion. He's just like, you know what? Maybe he thought back to his time growing up in the Notice Kingdom and just like, you know what? I had a pretty decent life growing up. You know, I didn't live in poverty. I was doing pretty good. I had enough food to eat. I had friends. You know, and I kind of just threw all that away to work for a literal, you know, psychotic flamingo man, right? So, you know, that literally forced me to kill my best friend. So, yeah. Tell you what, I'm just gonna give this up now. And so, him and Luffy and the rest of the Grand Fleet, they kind of depart on good terms. He doesn't say, I'm not gonna be a part of your fleet, but I am gonna take part of your Vivre card just to make sure, you know, if you're ever in danger, you can call me. And I think when he left, he's thinking to himself, all right, it's really like a journey to discover himself, I think, Bellamy. Like, for the first time in his life, he's like, I'm not going to try to live in Doflamingo's shadow. I'm going to try to find my own path, right, and what I need to do. And I think the first thing that Doflamingo realizes is, like, I want to repay Straw Hat for helping me out, right, for helping me kind of see this. It took 2 punches from him, but I think I need to thank him. And so he travels to this dyed goods town, just an island that's really known for making flags, and he is an apprentice under this, you know, flag-making master, and there he's going to learn all the different architectural skills and drawing skills on how to, like, make, you know, like, draft up a flag, and how, you know, the material that it's made out of, and good, like, what kind of dyes to use and everything. And that's what I like about One Piece, like, the world building. Like, there's a town for, like, everything. And so we see him, the last time in the cover story, we see him drawing a Jolly Roger, but not just any Jolly Roger. We can very clearly see that he's drawing a Straw Hat on said Jolly Roger. So this is going to clearly be either, maybe he's going to make an updated Jolly Roger for the Straw Hats, like a really good flag that can't be burned, or like it's going to be secure, it's always going to stand there, or he's trying to make a flag for the Grand Fleet. You know, he's going to make a universal flag to give to all the members of the Grand Fleet to, like, signify them under the Straw Hats, you know, banner. Okay, and he's going to maybe give, like, an updated flag to Luffy as well. And that's going to be, like, his recompense. That's going to be his redemption, kind of. Like, I feel like he's kind of already redeemed, honestly. I think he kind of saw the error of his ways. So that's good for Bellamy, right? I think there. He's still kind of maybe an asshole, but you know what I mean? He's on a better path now, okay? So, yeah. And next time he shows up, he might show up with the rest of the Grand Fleet. I could see that happening. I could see the next time the Grand Fleet gets involved in this story in a big way, whether it be at Laugh Tale or maybe before that, wherever the Grand Fleet kind of shows up to help out Luffy, I could see Bellamy being there, maybe standing next to Bartolomeo or Cavendish, and they have, like, the big Straw Hat banners all over their individual boats. Like, all the boats of the Grand Fleet, all of the Yonta Maria fleets have the Straw Hat Grand Fleet flag designed by Bellamy. And Bellamy helps out to fight too, even though he's like, well, I'm not a pirate anymore. This isn't me being a pirate. This is me being a friend. You know, maybe like, this is me repaying a favor to Straw Hat. You know, something of that nature, right? So, yeah, there's your Bellamy video. With extra slinky action. Whoa! Okay. Alright, well anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. One Piece chapter will be out on Sunday. I hear it's going to be a pretty good one, so catch back here for that. And then tomorrow, Saturday, I think I'll be doing the next Akatsuki video in that series. We're going to be talking about Zetsu tomorrow, the tree, plant, Venus flytrap dudes. So, yeah, catch back here next time, everybody. Tekking and Barry and Slinky signing out.